3, 2, 1. And we are live and shiny. Let's try to remedy this just a tad. Happy to be back. Happy to have you back. We are live with a Nose Knows, the first and only channel dedicated entirely to the more obscure, to the long forgotten, to the not yet known items in perfumery. And today we'll be talking about one item from this last category of things not yet launched, not yet popularized, not yet covered by other reviewers. I think that's where my contribution to the world of perfumery can come from. And today I am very happy to be able to introduce a new house to you that I think has a lot of potential, save for a few things that I personally would like them to see address. And I'm going to go through this list in quite a bit. Geza Collab, connecting from Prague. Strange Dim from Craiova. Liliana, Abdel, hola. ¿Cómo estás, mi amigo? If you log in, please make sure to say your name and let us know where you're connecting from, just like Geza did in the first comment in the chat box. So today we'll be talking about a new house I discovered this summer. I was not able to find too much information about it. And when I was in the store, which rarely happens, I actually don't necessarily visit stores as much as I should. I was not able to collect what I needed to know from the people there. So my first impression and my first piece of advice and my first feedback for whoever started this house would be this. Please make sure you train your personnel properly, because while they were completely, trim and proper and very amable and very helpful, they did not carry the kind of information somebody like me might need. The store I visited was in San Gimignano. Hikmat, welcome. Juana from Milan, welcome. And Dawn Drum from Wisconsin, hello. And Christy, happy Thursday, everyone. Happy Talking Thursday. I hope you have something to drink with you, because today we're definitely discussing an obscure, newly launched, and not yet covered. You won't find it in directories either. So this store I stumbled across by mistake in either San Gimignano or Siena. Do not remember which town we were in this past summer when we were vacationing in Tuscany. I walked in with my sister-in-law, who has a very, very good nose and palate. She doesn't know what she's smelling, but if she's using the right kind of language, she's usually very accurate in what she perceives, even though she doesn't know what it's called. So together we walked in this beautiful store that had incredible design, visually stunning, and it felt expensive. It felt quality material, from the way they had set out their stage design to the way everything was packaged. To be honest, correct. In Pakistan, it's Friday. Yep. That's because you're very far, and I'm very far. Far behind in your forehead. To be honest, what attracted me to this store, just to give you a little bit of an idea and aesthetic perspective, was the fact that the packaging of what I saw first looked very much like a bottle of Eric Butterbau, for example. The very sinuous, almost feminine, bust-like, but still neutral, rounded on top but square on the bottom bottle, with a very spherical, clear, almost like a witch's globe type of top. I liked it very much. So it was because of those bottles that we both walked into the store. We came to discover that those bottles were not fragrance. They were home fragrance, which was a little bit disappointing, but a little bit nice to hear. They're beautiful to look at, and to have around, almost like a decor piece. So it kind of makes sense. And from that, we moved into being introduced to their personal care line. They have all these, lotions and all these things, which I normally don't gravitate towards because I make my own. And finally, to their fragrance part of the store and the story. The fragrances are also housed and packaged in bottles and packages that I believe are very Italian and very well done. I am not one to buy a fragrance for the flacon normally. I don't really care about the way the bottle looks, but I do care about the bottle because I think essentially it does make a whole story, and it's easier to understand the concept if you see all parts of it, including what they decided to put the fragrance in. But I won't buy something just for the bottle, and I won't pay $1.5 million for a fragrance just because it's in a diamond encrusted platinum whatever. I care more about the juice itself than what the bottle looks like. That being said, putting that aside, I do have a soft spot for Italian aesthetics, and I, particularly when it comes to styling in perfumery, not visually, but the way they construct fragrances. I think Italian perfumery is my favorite when it comes to things I love rather than things I'm inspired by. They're two different things sometimes, or most of the times. Hi, Mr. Ashfaq. Good morning from Doc and Nerd. I will take it. Welcome back, Abdel. Love vintage bottles. I do too. So the packaging is like this. There are two lines to this house called Note del Chianti. Note means notes. Del Chianti, of Chianti. It's pretty self-explanatory, particularly if any of you speak any other Latin language. I think it's pretty easy to understand. Note del Chianti is the name of the shop, the smelly olfaction shop. Like I said, they have a personal care line, mostly populated with stuff for men, so aftershave balms, stuff like that. They also have a home fragrance line, which I think is stunning. I don't usually spend money on home fragrances or diffusers or stuff like that because I'd rather burn a wood or a resin and pay for fragrances rather than something else. I know it does, huh? And fava beans. And the third section of the brand is occupied by personal fragrances, of which they just decided to split the collection into two. This is the higher end part of the collection. I still have a little bit too much light in my face, but I'm sorry. It's just one of those mornings in California. And the regular line being populated with what they call eau de parfum and eau de toilette, and looking almost the same, but not as refined. And I'll get into details. So Note del Chianti, this is a representative of the higher end of their fragrance section line. And the one that I want to talk about today, the one that I ended up buying for more money than what they're charging online, go figure, is called Recordo Secreto. Recordo Secreto is secret memory. Ricordo, think about to record something, to save it for the posterity, to make sure it's being remembered. I do believe these two words, the Anglo-Saxon version of recording, records, and ricordo, which means memory in Italian have the same type of root. It's actually Recordo Secreto with a G, which was surprising. And secreto, secret, again, very self-explanatory. So secret memory, a secret remembering of something. Bon, Recordo Secreto is part of, like I said, the higher end, the luxury line, which they called Gran Selezione, which is a syntagma also used for wines. Their whole concept and spiel and inspiration is to copy or assimilate and project smells of wines in Tuscany or Chianti region. So the inspiration for their entire business is, let's make things that include wine notes. Smurfy Girly, hi from Madeira. Oh yeah, right. I saw you're there. You're studying and working on a secret project. I have tried all of them in the store. I don't remember each and every one of them, but I will be talking about one other fragrance, which I wish I had bought, because that one is pretty present in my memory, and I think I can describe it off the top of my head. So Recordo Secreto is part of their Gran Selezione. Gran Selezione means grand selection, right? Means higher luxury something. It's also supposed to be a little bit more intense when it comes to concentration. I believe their tendency was to make this into an extrato, extrait du parfum, whereas the lower priced collections of eau du parfum and eau du toilette are less intense. Okay, the packaging is as you see it. I don't really know what's on this. Chocolate? Something? This has been carried around through many countries, and yeah. Take some losange? No, thank you. So the packaging looks like this. It is cardboard paper. On the outside, it almost looks like the bark of a tree. If you look at it very carefully and very closely, the etiquette and labeling is matte black as you see it, with some red metallic embossed print, which is, looks very luxe and high. And the bottom looks like this. Again, I don't really know what this is. It's been in many bags since I bought it. Very simple, very clean, not very, expressive or detailed marking. And that is it. As you open it like this, the interior is pretty regular. And the presentation is like this, on a pedestal, very stuck in there. This looks like a rosette of some sort, and this is a white velvet. And the bottle looks like this. Again, this is the Gran Reserva, Gran Selezione, right? The regular line does not have these cannelures. It's pretty smooth, and it doesn't really have these ridges on the bottle. The bottle looks like this. I think it's very well made, quality-wise. The glass is well finished. The front looks like this. I don't know if it's gonna want to focus. Come on, dude. Please focus, because these people, there you go. So as you can see, it's very deeply drawn and then painted on the bottle. Gran Selezione. This is what it looks like. The bottom is like this. And I wouldn't call it Art Deco. I would go as far as call it Tuscan style. Just like Tuscan style is an architectural and decor style, I would put that into the design of the bottle, because there's no there are no universal elements to this. It's very Italian to the way I perceive aesthetic. So the cap is made of a very light wood that's been pyrograved, embossed with fire, burnt basically. These are very deep ridges. The top of the top looks like this, and it's kind of bas relief, sculpted basically, and then colored. And there's a very Renaissance / mixed with Baroque, mixed with something, N and C, and that's about it. This is how it presents. Okay, so now let's go talk about the fragrance. There are 3, like I said, in the Gran Selezione collection. The one that I should have purchased, it's possible. I don't see why not. There's plenty of oakness in the smell to kind of justify that point. But unless I taste it, I'm probably not going to know. And even if I taste it, I'm probably not going to know, because it's probably very intense. So maybe. Respiro d'Amore is another fragrance, and Sogno Toscano is the 3rd in this Gran Selezione collection. And Sogno Toscano is what I think I should have purchased. I believe the reason for which I didn't buy it, that being because it was very linear, I thought, is not bothering me as much as it did then. And the quality of the smell was enough and likable and beautiful, just simply beautiful. Made me think of sakura and cherry blossoms and peonies and very soft roses and very soft woods and very soft red berries almost. Nice dessert wine. I think that was a better choice, because this I can't wear for some reason, and I'm going to try to identify what that is. First of all, this is called, like I said, Recordo Secreto, Secret Memory, and it's a gourmand. I'm guessing most of them would be, since the inspiration and the central note and the concepting revolves around wine. In this case, this is supposed to be a Vinsanzo inspiration. Yeah, and the Vinsanto is a type of dessert wine, usually made with a couple different kinds of grapes, not together. It's either or. One of them is a Malvasia grape, of which I've heard before. It's a very fragrant, floral almost grape, sweet and golden, kind of. So the Vinsanto is the product of processing this Malvasia grape, and it's a dessert wine. So the house is Note del Chianti, notes of Chianti. It's not listed in directories as of yet, I believe. Last summer when I got it, there was nothing on any of it. So I'm speaking from nose and from what I can conjure as a context, and from my visit to the store. So, like I said, it opens with what they call a Vinsanto note. So grapey, florally, little bit golden. Imagine those very fragrant grapes that you bite into, and the skin you have to spit out, or you don't, but the skin is slightly sour, but the interior is very sweet and clumpy. It stays in one piece. You can't really bite through the grape. It's in one chunk. It makes for a very interesting textural experience when you eat it. How that translates into this, I don't know. I'm just relaying the kind of information that I think makes some sense for what Vinsanto is. And it explains why, as a dessert wine, it made its way into the top and not the middle or bottom of this, even though this is a gourmand all around. Hi, Rich. And I actually don't know. Uva strawberry grapes? I don't know what that is. Worth looking into. Davide and Taffy and Catch My Whiff. You're not late. You're never late. We don't do roll call here. So this Vinsanto Accords, they built Shore on top. I think they also declare amber. It's very simple. Declare amber, and they declare oak. And that's it. This is all they say about this. Now, if you would allow me, this is what I smell. Yes, grapey, goldeny, almost floral, aromatic grapes and grape juice and white grape juice. So there are no tannins in this. Coconut, or some sort of what these days has been defined often. Okay, yes, so that's what I'm talking about. To spit out the skin. Type of grape you have to spit out the skin, used in liquor, very aromatic. Yes, that's exactly what I've been talking about. Coconut. I'm not sure they wanted to produce this aftertaste to maintain the lingo, but I feel the vanilla mixed with whatever floral, slight indolic, slightly tropical, almost like a tiare, or maybe they purchased what nowadays is called an orchid accord. You've also smelled it probably in Sensual Orchid by Laura Mazzone, and it's present in a lot of fragrances nowadays. It's that feeling of coconutty, creamy, sunscreen, tropical sweetness thing that together with the grape create the big chunk of the body of this fragrance. Another third most important impression, and I'm calling it an impression because I don't know what gives it, is a very birchy, terpenic subnote. It can be tar and birch. It can be some sort of maybe fir balsam. It may be some sort of very smoky gaillac mixed with some cade oil, whatever it is. Think of it as a very woody note, not the oaky note, which is very familiar to those who drink. So we're not talking about that. I'm talking about a very particular woody, burnt rubbery, terpenic, piney note all together. I don't know, again, what this is constructed with. I will go through. I doubt this is Masoya, but maybe it is. Maybe it is. I would love to think that this is Masoya. I'm not sure. The composition kind of stands yes, it is sharp. The composition stands on its own very easily. It's very compact. It's dense. It's like what your guts feel after a very, very rich, deep, heavy meal. You know you're not going to be happy the next day. Okay? It's kind of like that. It seems very simple. It's very strong. It's very pervasive, and it makes my tongue numb, basically. If you spend time with it and you decompose it into specific notes, there are a lot of nuances in here that I'd like to go into. But for Prozac, yes, but on its own and at a very simplistic level of analysis, these are the three things that are the most present. One, a fruity white grape note. Indeed, there's no tannin in this. Two, a very sensual orchid kind of vanilla coconut tiare accord. And three, the woody, smoky, terpenic, piney third three note accord substance to this fragrance. So these three are the main different categories of notes that are to be found. Now let's break it down a little bit. Apart from the grape note, there are also a few other fruity notes. One of them is a dry plum note, not particularly fragrant, a little bit smoky, sweet, and jammy, almost like marmalade-y. The vanilla under it comes with a sharp, I wouldn't say synthetic vanilla, but a sharp, it's interpreted vanilla. This is not absolute. This is not from the bean. It's a different kind of very desserty vanilla, if you want. Prices are okay. I paid 160 euros for this. I don't know if it's because I was a foreigner in Chianti. I did speak Italian to them, or at least tried. They were very eager to speak English, so I'm pretty sure we found a way to understand each other, but I paid 160 euros. I see it's 145 now for 100 mils for the Extrait du Parfum. And for the performance and the beast mode and whatever, other things, projection, sillage, that fragrance users may look for, this is definitely, doing the job. Vanilla Absolute is indeed very expensive. So that's what I'm saying. It's a reconstructed type of vanilla. Apart from that, I think these are some aldehydic applications of something that smells nutty and coconutty and a little bit creamy. I do believe there's a little bit of styrax in here and a lot of benzoin in here. Maybe some low-grade sandalwood. I do smell not oak, but acorn, which is very interesting because the acorn, when you break it and it's crude, it's raw, it has a particularly starchy, woody, green, but nutty smell. If you didn't know, acorns were one way to survive famines because they would be dried and ground into some sort of a flour that has some nutritional value. So that's how a lot of people in Europe survived the 2 world wars and the very, very, very severe depression in between. In the 29s and up until 1933, Europe was dying of hunger. I am wearing it because otherwise I wouldn't be able to focus too much. One puff on my wrist as of now. It's very soft and fuzzy right now. This does have some texture, not like others, but it does have some texture. It sat properly on the skin. It's very enveloping. It's very present and very pervasive, as I said. There's no way you can't feel it. So Rich says, I think oak will be this decade's oud. Okay. I would not be sorry to see that rise. There are a few ingredients that I'm waiting for. So going back to the resiny aspects of this, I think there's a little bit of styrax. There's a flintiness to the resin in here that makes me think of styrax. There's also benzoin. There's the sweetness and crystallineness, crispiness of soft benzoin with no citrus accord. I actually can't pick up any citrus of any kind. Right now, because it's been on for about an hour, I feel some camphorous bits. I don't know if it's the kind of menthol that patchouli exudes sometimes, or it's a very, very carefully crafted eucalyptus. There's a sweetness to it, but they're very vague, but present, mentally undertones as of now. There are medicinal aspects to this. I personally thought there's a little bit of synthetic oud in here. There's definitely iso-E. I feel a little bit of amproxan, just a tiny, tiny bit. So these are for support. These are for filling out the gaps. They're doing a really good job because, like I said in the beginning, this is like a brick. It's very solid. It's not aerated. It's not necessarily evolving very much. The only thing that changed about it is the intensity and the textural aspect. But the smell itself, I don't feel it changes that much. So it's rather linear, just like the other one I found. There are also different aspects of, I'm not sure these are in here, but my mind goes there. Cade oil, which I think I've mentioned before. Maybe some dusty cypress wood. Fir balsam, I think I mentioned. Gaiac, I think I mentioned with the smoky, tarry aspects. Is there anything? I mentioned birch. I mentioned plasticky, burnt rubber aspects to this. I think I mentioned a creaminess that it does have, and I do think it comes from this accord of orchid, new orchid. And if I were to dismantle that accord, I would think of tiare or gardenia. Yes, creamy aspect as well. Tiare and gardenia, maybe some other wet flower like lotus, a heliotrope or almond element to it. So together, all of these create a very floral, coconutty, sweet, creamy accord that, like I said, is one of the three pillars of this fragrance. There's not much more to say about it. Oakiness does not come as a smell in particular, but as a sharpness and a little bit of earth, because wet oak smells different from dry, sunny oak. So when it's wet, and I've washed way too many wine barrels in my lifetime. It's just not a fun activity, particularly if Respiro d'Amore. To be honest, I don't remember any of the other ones except for Toscano Intenso, which was a solid vetiver saffron, almost saffrony, neutral and very airy concoction. And then the other one, Sogno Toscano, which is a very delicate, albeit linear, but very delicate and beautifully constructed. I should have bought that one. Cherry blossom, peony, red berries type of fragrance. So citrusy one, also from the Gran Selezione. I don't remember the other one. So Respiro d'Amore is the first, Sogno Toscano is the second, and today's Recordo Secreto is the third from the Gran Selezione. The other one I don't remember. I only know this one, which I have. and Sonia Toscano, which I should have purchased. But I think they're doing Sillage and Longevity. I think they're doing a really, really good job of filling out the performance lines. Sillage, I don't know. You feel it in the room, so projection is great. Longevity is fantastic. One puff holds for a whole day. It would have been nice if they sold samples. Now, if we go to their business practices, and if anybody ever ends up watching this video from the company, please do something about the way your personnel treats information. They're very nice with visitors, but they had no idea what they're talking about. They had no answers to any of the questions we had about who made these, who's the perfumer, are they aged, what is the concept, what are you going for, what kind of niche, where do you see yourself, positioning, all the stuff that I, as a documentarist, would want to have questions for. They also did not have the acumen or presence of spirit to say, I don't know, I only work here, lady, but I can put you in touch with somebody who can answer your questions or something, or I know speak English, something. They didn't. They were very nice. They were very accommodating. They were very patient with us, which is fantastic because seriously, we stuck our noses into everything. We opened all these bottles. We wanted to see how it feels. You look at things that normal people don't look at. This house is brand new, completely new. It's not listed anywhere. It's called Note del Chianti, and it's inspired and built around wine, notes and accords. So they were just sitting there being very patient and very nice and very pretty, which is disturbing to me. I mean, I used to be pretty too, but it's disturbing that out of the people there, everybody was pretty, and still the prettiest, or the one who would be considered the most attractive according to current Western criteria, was also the one who spoke the most, even though everybody else had the same type of limited amount of information to share. So I was kind of like, yeah, I'm fine. But I used to be stunning, man. I used to be like, I had the Playboy follow me around for a year and a half when I was in college, like that. I was Playboy material. Now it's like, I'm fine. Now I'm fine. It's all personality. I know it goes a long way, and it didn't. Nothing happened. They were smiling, and that's it. So I don't know who made these. I have no idea who the perfumer is, even though they kept talking about a well-known perfumer. I still don't know who the perfumer is because they couldn't remember. And they kind of like elbowed each other, trying to make up something. And they were like, Massimo? And I'm like, Massimo so-and-so? And they're like, well. So, I don't know who made them. I don't know when they were launched. I don't know what the plans are for the line. I don't know what the pricing structure is really, because like I said, I paid 160 euros for this, and I see it now listed at 145. I saw it this morning. Somebody was saying 149. So I don't know if there's coherence. I'm sure there are explanations or not for everything that I've noticed in relation to this house. I do believe they're onto something good. I believe as a collection, they're coherent. I believe as a line or as a brand, they make sense in that they decided to split the business into 3 different olfactive categories, one being home, one being care, personal care, and another one being personal fragrance. It makes total sense. I think it's scalable. You can always add another wine, another type of wine product, another idea related to wine or wineries or winemakers or winemaking or Tuscany in general. So there are a lot of ways to expand on this concept. So I congratulate them on that. I think it's good. However, I do believe again that their personnel needs to have a little bit more presence and an access. If they don't have the information, they need to be given the access to the information, or at least forced to access it if it's already there. They need to be trained. You may not exist in niche, no matter how good your story is, if you also decide to do, brick and mortar retail where people come and get to sample and ask and so forth. Maybe Italy is different in that regard. Maybe people in Italy are used to just walk into a no name for them fragrance house. I mean, there are 800 houses in Italy nowadays. No, there were 680 last year. I don't remember how many registered brands, and who knows how many thousands of small antica farmacista, herboristeria, local stores there are that also make fragrances. So maybe people are used to walk into their, the corner pharmacy that's been there for 400 years and also has been doing some interesting concoctions and smelly things and not care about any of the information. But for the rest of us, and particularly if you want to project as a new niche, which they are, thank you. Bye. Bye, Afridi. I'm guessing Afridi is your first name, but you need to tell me what to call you. Why do some companies not mention their perfumer? For a variety of reasons. One, maybe the perfumer is new and inexperienced and doesn't know they can get credit for their work. So the contract is like, okay, you just make us something, like a tailor, right? You don't walk around saying who the tailor is unless that tailor is a big name and they want the exposure. If the tailor is a neighborhood tailor and they don't know better, or they don't know that they can get some exposure, they might not ask it in the contract. So there's that. Sometimes maybe the perfumer is in-house. In that case, if it's an in-house perfumer working for a brand that is not his, then he's just another employee. So there's no need in the house's vision to put the perfumer on display. Maybe they are not revealing the perfumer because they think they're onto something and they want to keep them or their work to themselves before they release the information and spread the word so others can copy their work. Perhaps the target market is the non-frag head tourist. I don't believe that, because all the presentation and the website now and their displays, everything was in English. So it was directed at tourists. Bonjour. Another reason for which a house might not disclose the perfumer is because there is no perfumer. Sometimes there are legacy formulas that they just buy from ateliers that kind of churn them or have a library of formulas that they never used. Be it schools of perfumery, be it a studio with 40 employees. All of them have noses, and they exercise by creating formulas, just like I would practice my writing skills. It doesn't matter what I write or the fact that I don't write to somebody in particular. I just sit there and practice my hand, whatever it is. And these formulas, some of them, if they prove to be stable, for example, chemically sane and pleasant to the nose, get archived in a library of formulas available but not used. So I want to start my own house. I go to one of these studios and say, I want to buy 4 formulas, one for something gourmand, one for something blah blah blah, and one for something la la la. And then they go to the library, they pick a few cards and say, does this smell okay? Does this smell okay? Does this okay? Here are the formulas. Done. So there are a lot of reasons for which, or a lot of possibilities that would lead to a house not listing the perfumer. It might be a cultural thing. Historically, because Italy has such a rich history with olfaction, scent, and it being connected to health services. Let's not forget that in Western Europe, particularly, a lot of the fragrances or the modern, what we consider, post 1500s, modern and contemporary perfumery started because the pharmacies, that's why you have so many farmacia, antica farmacia, profumeria, so-and-so in Italy. These pharmacies would mix their own blends. They would macerate, they would distill, they would stuff for their medical purposes. And people decided at some point that the thing that would make you healthy on the inside is smells good enough to wear on the outside. Sometimes these were rubbing alcohols. Sometimes, the Swedish bitter that we now drink, the Jägermeisters and stuff style, Stregas, these were medicines back in the day. So it was a very easy step from, I'm going to drink it and I'm going to pour it on my hair so I don't have lice. Ooh, this smells good. I'm going to use it even though I don't have lice anymore and because it smells clean. So once a year when I get married or when I whatever, I'm going to use it on the outside. That's why, yes, pharmacists and pharmacies used to be attached to monasteries. It's only in the Islamic world where hospitals were sponsored, usually by the sultanas, or it was one of those things to do for the first lady or first ladies to sponsor schools and hospitals. And sometimes those were separate from places of worship, but in Europe and particularly in the Christian world, and I actually don't know in other cultures or other religious systems. Sorry, I got excited. I don't know where hospitals and places of healing would be housed. But in Europe and in Western Europe, a lot of these healing places and hospitals would live close to monasteries. That's also where the pharmacies would be. And that's also why a lot of perfumeries today, Les Couvents des Minimes is a very, very classic example, are associated with monastery notions and usually function, for those who've been around for 300, 400 years, next to a church inside a city or, town wall. In Italy, you see a lot of that. And if you pay attention, you'll see that it's not a coincidence. It's kind of how things evolved. So because, going back to the question, because perfumery evolved from a medical field branching out into more cosmetic purposes, or from a luxury industry, like leather industry was a luxury industry. It kind of calcated onto this notion of, if you want to project luxury, you have to smell like you own leather, for example. So people would start to mimic that. These are the two parallel lines, medical and luxury items, that existed in collective memory as methods of inducing and attracting perfumery into the day-to-day person's life. I hope that makes sense. I can talk until tomorrow. I mean, Claire, I know so much because I don't know, because it sticks. I'm a nerd. So that's why, like Ashfaq says above in a comment, that's why in cultures with a long tradition of olfaction, countries or cultures with a long tradition and history in the art of olfaction, rarely does the perfumer get mentioned, because it operated, perfumery operated in parallel and connected to other fields that didn't necessarily warrant the need to call out anybody. You would not call out your pharmacist, right? Hey, who made your lice lotion? Well, so made by, composed by. It's kind of like that. So I hope that answers it. And if it doesn't, my friend, you are way more thorough than than I am. So that's that. Brands have to continue a legacy as well. I heard that the perfumer for Spice and Wood may actually be in question. I don't know, but keep us posted. Prettiness and intelligence is way more knowledge than the common denominator in the community. That is true. I do. But, to each their own. Each of us do whatever they can. I do it to contribute. Others do it for other reasons, and to each their own. We all have room. Recordo Secreto gets compliments. I don't know, man. I never get compliments on anything I wear. I don't know if it's because I'm scary, or because things don't smell good on me, or because I never wear more than 3 puffs at most. I don't want to be an ass. I don't want my cat to choke. I don't want to, Do you mind telling how many languages do you speak? Tell us more about lice. I speak 5 or 6, and I'm working on 2 more. 2. Well, actively working on 1 more. Yeah, that's it. Sometimes it helps and sometimes it doesn't. So, and if I drink, I speak approximately 0.73. My wife gives me you stink. Yeah, well, that happens. I have a husband who's very, very simple in his taste for fragrance, not so much food, where he has a very sophisticated palate, and somehow these two don't coexist in the same person's apparatus. But hey, so I get that quite often. But does it get compliments? I bet it will be. It's very, like I said, pervasive. It's very present. It's very vanillic. It's very coconutty, and it's very woody, almost like synthetic oud. Although I don't think there's any synthetic oud. More like the woods I already mentioned. So if you don't choke people, what's the point? I don't know. You tell me. I'm not trying to mate, and I'm not trying to choke, and I'm not trying to have the fragrance speak for me, because I can speak for myself. Thank you very much. So I don't know. I don't understand the question. Next. All right, folks, that was it for today. I don't think I gave you as much information about the fragrance itself, but this is what I have. Sometimes it's not as inspiring as others. I do believe the Sogno Toscano is very beautiful. Makes me think of that one, of Nightingale, I think, from Zoologist. It's the same kind of ethereal. Is it Nightingale? I think it's Nightingale. Ethereal, silky, cherry blossom, soft pink flower, pink berries, kind of very feminine, very, very beautiful fragrance. It's linear, and I'm not a beautiful feminine type of fragrance person, but I wish I had gotten that for some reason. It's a little bit addictive, and I know that because my sister-in-law picked that up at my recommendation. Go figure. So yes, I think this is very successful for the type of tastes and aesthetic today. I love the packaging. I think it's very highly high quality everything. I love their home fragrance lines, the way they smell, the way they look. I would recommend them blindly to anybody. And that's it. If you like this kind of nerdy facts about perfume and perfumery, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, tell others, talk about this channel because I don't. If you haven't found me on Instagram, find me there, please, because that's a little bit easier to digest and faster to process, and 60-second videos and whatnots. And let's say it together, folks. Keep it real, but keep it kind. Or should I say, keep it kind, but also keep it real. And most importantly, and this is a mantra for me, I wish it was for everybody, because that would make everybody's life easier. Wherever you go, make it better. That's it. I will see you next week. And until then, stay safe, folks.